All right, we're here. The 2024 NFL playoffs are upon us, and today I'm going to be filling out my 2024-25 season playoff predictions for you guys. And wild card weekend is here. We have 6 games. We're going to have 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. And this is honestly a really good, I think, playoff bracket. I think maybe the Bengals could have been a little bit more exciting of a team going to Buffalo just because of their MVP caliber offense this year, with Jamar Chase being one of the best receivers in the league, Joe Burrow being one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But honestly, the Broncos have been exceeding expectations this year, and their offense has been definitely fun at times. We'll see how they end up going to Buffalo and if they're able to pull off what would be a noticeable upset. The Bills are 8.5-point favorites. We could just start off in that game. And these two teams did not play at all throughout the regular season. Josh Allen could end up winning the MVP award. Bo Nix has been shocking everybody this year, being a very productive rookie for this Denver Broncos team. I think most people thought going into the year, there was a better chance that they were going to end up as last place, basically, in the AFC West, then make a playoff spot. But Bo Nix really carried not really the sexiest looking offense in the world to the playoffs, as the defense stepped it up with guys like Pat Surtain, Nick Benito, guys just getting it done on that side of the field. I think there is going to be an upset. I think like history shows there is a noticeable upset in the wild card weekend. Like last year, we saw it with Green Bay beating Dallas in Dallas. As much as I wouldn't be totally shocked if this was the upset, like only 8.5 points, it's definitely possible. But I do think Buffalo is going to pick up the victory at home. Josh Allen in this offense has been too effective all year long. This is maybe not the most favorable matchup for them. Like I think if they go and they take on Pittsburgh or LA, they'd be completely fine. I think the defense of Denver could give them some issues. And I think this game could even be a little bit more close than we think. Like I wouldn't be totally shocked if the final score was like Buffalo 30, Denver 24, and it was a game that maybe was won on the last possession. Honestly, like it wouldn't be totally shocking. There was that game with Skylar Thompson and the Miami Dolphins a couple years ago in the playoffs that was a little bit closer than everybody thought it was going to be. But I do think Buffalo ends up winning this game, and they're going to move on to the divisional round. So then we got Pittsburgh, and then we got Baltimore. So you could tell I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I'm going to take the Steelers now. I'm just kidding. I'm probably going to go with Baltimore here. The Steelers got off to an incredible start this year. They were 10-3, and then they ended up losing their final 4 games of the season. They ended up losing to good teams, right? They ended up losing to the Eagles, the Ravens, the Chiefs, some of the best teams in the NFL. But then just that Bengals game coming out flat at home to end out the year. I know you really didn't have too much on the line. You could have ended up going to Houston, which is better than going to Baltimore. These two teams played obviously twice this year since they're in the same division. The Steelers won 18-16 earlier in mid-November. They only won off Chris Boswell field goals. They hit 6 field goals in that one, and then they got blown out by the Ravens basically 34-17 a few weeks ago on that Saturday game before the Christmas matchups. And you know what? The Ravens like to play a ton of man defense. I do think Russell Wilson works best attacking the man defense, and that could be one of the strong suits for the Steelers. Zay Flowers is going to be out in this game as well, so the Ravens are down one of their top playmakers. I mean, the spread is 9.5 for Baltimore. It's kind of high. I could see an upset in a way that it's just a divisional matchup. It's going to be very cold in Baltimore. And I also wouldn't be totally shocked if the Steelers ended up changing their quarterback mid-game. Like if Russell Wilson and the Steelers offense doesn't get anything going throughout like their first 2 to 3 possessions, I could totally see the Steelers bring in Justin Fields and hope that changes anything throughout this game. But Lamar Jackson has been an MVP all year long. I don't think them losing Zay Flowers for this game really isn't going to change too much, as Lamar is going to be able to attack the Steelers run defense, which feels like it's getting less and less effective over the last few weeks. And I do think Baltimore is going to win this game and they're going to advance to the divisional round. But they won't be going up against the Chiefs, because I do think the LA Chargers are going to pull off the only upset. It's a 5 seed over a 4 seed there in the wild card round, just because Justin Herbert has been playing so well all year long. I feel like the way Jim Harbaugh has run this offense, there's not going to be a lot of mistakes. J.K. Dobbins has been great all year long. Like they're getting that play out of those guys that really didn't have the highest expectations going into this year. Vaughn McConkey has turned into a wide receiver 1. Even Quinn Johnson has had some good games this year as well. The Chargers defense is very solid. It got off to a great start this year. And for Houston, like they had all these expectations going into this year. They got off to a good start. They still finished with an all right record, but they basically played in what was one of the worst divisions in the league. They were able to win that division kind of without any stress towards the end of the year, and they just didn't have a Grayson, and they didn't have the strongest finish to the end of the year as well. Like losing to Tennessee, yes, they beat Jacksonville and they beat Miami, but you lose to Kansas City, you get embarrassed at home 31-2 to the Ravens. I just feel like the Chargers are playing some good football and the Texans are not playing some of their best football, and I do think there's going to be an upset here. These two teams did not play each other throughout the regular season, and I do think Justin Herbert is going to do a very good job attacking this Houston Texans defense. So that's what I think the divisional round is going to look like, and man, is that an exciting divisional round there in the AFC. Like, obviously, I'd love my Steelers to win the Super Bowl, but if you're a pure, like, neutral, objective entertainment factor, I think this is as good as you can get in the AFC. Maybe if, like, Cincinnati was in there, like, you get Burrowhead, which really isn't a thing anymore, but just for an excitement factor, I think, like, this is as good as you can get in the AFC with the Chargers going to Arrowhead. They lost to them twice throughout the regular season, but you know what? It was a very close game early in December, and then you got the Bills and the Ravens again in Buffalo. Obviously, Baltimore blew them out earlier in the year. So let's go over here to the NFC. First matchup we'll talk about, we'll talk about the Rams-Vikings. Now, this game is also TBD where it's going to be playing with all the scary stuff going on in California with the forest fires. This game could end up getting moved to Arizona. So it's maybe not possible that the Rams are going to get their home playoff game. This is the Monday game. And these two teams did play at the end of October, 30-20. The Rams beat the Vikings on Thursday night. They got a couple favorable calls towards the end of that game. But honestly, I think like the Rams resting their guys in week 18, they were okay going and playing the Minnesota Vikings or the Detroit Lions. Like if they beat Seattle in week 18, they'd be hosting Washington. I'd rather host Washington than one of these NFC North teams. But I think while everybody is probably taking Minnesota, and I definitely could see why, I'm going to take the Rams here. I just think the experience of Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold has been great all year long, and I've been kind of negative towards the Vikings in all my predictions about them. I just thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the NFC, and they ended up as one of the best teams in the NFL. It's crazy what they've been doing this year. Kevin O'Connell is coach of the year. Sam Darnold is going to earn himself a lot of money towards the end of the year. I just think like a lot of their games have been close, that like they could have lost to Seattle. They could have lost to Green Bay a couple times. Obviously, they lost to LA earlier in the year, and just like the Rams rookies have really been showing out. When you're talking about Cameron Kitchens, or you're talking about Jared Verse, or Brandon Fisk, or even Kobe Turner from the 2023 draft, and you got good playmakers on the offensive side of the field. I think the Rams are going to get this done. I don't think they're like there's a chance there could be more Vikings fans at this game than the Rams, but I'm going to go with the Rams to advance there to the divisional round. Next up, we could do Bucks and Commanders. And honestly, this is where I think the biggest upset could come. This could definitely be Washington beats Tampa. Tampa's been beatable pretty much all year long. Like you could definitely go into Tampa and pull off the upset. Jaden Daniels has been one of the most electric rookies in quite some time. The spread's about 3 points right now for the Bucks. Right now, the Vikings, though, they're favored by 1 point, so it is technically an upset. I think spread-wise, the Chargers are actually favorites in that game. They are, -3, so that really isn't an upset. It's just upsetted seed-wise. But for Tampa, I think they are going to get it done, but I think this could be one of the most high-scoring, electric first game, round matchups. This could be the best wildcard matchup right here. Just two really good offenses, two honestly exciting defenses as well with playmakers on that side of the field, and we can get some really good quarterback play here. And I'm excited. I'm excited for and this is an interesting one though, because I think a lot of people have been disappointed, like in Green Bay. I think their fans are disappointed with Matt LaFleur. What are you doing? He's one of the best coaches in the league. I think Jordan Love maybe just got to cool off a little bit on what his hype could be, but this could be a statement game for Jordan Love. Jalen Hurts has had a really good playoff resume so far for the Eagles in a small sample size. I mean, they ended up going to the Super Bowl in 2022. He ends up beating the Giants, who ended up beating the Vikings, and then he beat the 49ers, who were down a couple quarterbacks. He had a great game against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and then last year, kind of a stinker against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a good defense, as the Packers don't really have that good of a secondary. And Jalen Hurts being in concussion protocol, I think, is the one scary thing in this one. The Eagles are have a -4 spread. I think this is where we could see the biggest upset. I was going back and forth between the Commanders being the biggest upset or the Packers, and I'm going to have the Packers. Yeah, going into Lincoln Financial Field, being 4.5-point underdogs and beating Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is where Matt LaFleur can show why he's one of the best coaches in the league, and I don't think Love and Hurts are that far apart. I do think Hurts is a better quarterback, but I do think this is a game and a matchup where coaching could matter a ton, and I do think Matt LaFleur is a better coach than Nick Sirianni, even though the Eagles have an incredible team, and this honestly could be a Super Bowl team, and I could look like an absolute idiot, and I could totally realize that the Eagles I have losing during the wild card weekend, they could win the Super Bowl 100%. That is a Super Bowl caliber roster, but this is where I'm just feeling that big upset. So that is my wild card predictions. Let's go over here to the divisional round now, where we'll go back to the AFC. Baltimore, Buffalo. Man, oh man, is this going to be one of the most exciting matchups if we were going to get this? It's going to be in Buffalo. The spread would be like probably around a point, and this is basically MVP candidate versus MVP candidate. Both these quarterbacks can scramble. Both these quarterbacks are elevating their offenses, which their skill position groups, maybe not the best in the league, but they make them some of the best in the league. I'm going to go Buffalo. I'm going to go Buffalo to pull it off. I think it's just because they are home in this one. They were able to get the 2 seed. I know Baltimore pretty much dominated them earlier in the year. And I do think Lamar might be a little bit more deserving of the MVP award, and that is coming from a Steelers fan. But I think just Buffalo, the way that they're playing offensively, and I think their defense has been a very strong suit this year for them, they're going to be able to get it done and go to the conference championship. And for the 3rd time this year, I do think that the Chiefs are going to beat the Chargers, and maybe we're going to get finally a time where the Bills could beat the Chiefs. It's the most vulnerable they've been. Patrick Mahomes got banged up later in the year. He is maybe playing injured. Travis Kelce is getting a little bit older. Rashee Rice is out for the year. Isaiah Pacheco has not really been much of a factor since coming back from his injury. And the Chiefs defense is still very good, but maybe it wasn't as elite as it was last year at times. And I think that's going to be one of the most electric matchups of the year. Buffalo at Kansas City in the conference championship. So we'll start off here. We got the Lions and the Packers. The Lions beat the Packers by 10 earlier in the year, and then they beat them by 3 in their second matchup. And the Lions have so many injuries. I don't think they're going to get Aiden Hutchinson back for this game. We'll see if he does come back during the playoffs. But yeah, David Montgomery is hurt. Their defense is banged up a ton. But I do think they get it done. I think, like Kansas City, they beat their division rival for the 3rd time this year, and we're going to get the Lions back in the conference championship game where they were so close to winning it all last year. And I do believe the Eagles match up very well against the Lions. Like, that's a matchup that I wish we got this year between those two teams, because that would have been absolutely electric. I do think that the Rams beat the Bucks and go to the conference championship. So the 2nd year in a row, the Bucks lose in the divisional round. I think why this NFL season can be storyline driven is because you got Matthew Stafford versus his old team, Jared Goff versus his old team, with a chance to go to the Super Bowl this year. And I do think the Rams, man, like, I doubted them a little bit going into this year. Obviously, I like the Niners to win the division, and I think I like Seattle a little bit more than them preseason. But just like the way that they've been able to fill their holes by just acing all these draft picks has really extended the Matthew Stafford window. They have a great coach in Sean McVay. They still have a good quarterback in Matthew Stafford. You have Puka Nacua, you have Cooper Kupp, you have Kyron Williams. This is a fun Rams offense, and it's a fun Rams defense, and I think they're able to get it done and go to the conference championship. So, Buffalo, Kansas City. You know what? I had a preseason prediction on what my Super Bowl was going to be. I did it on the Triple Option podcast. The link to that is in the description. And I have both these teams that I had in the Super Bowl here in the conference championship. I'm going to stand by that. I don't think much has changed. I think Buffalo finally gets it done this year. I think this is the year where everybody was zagging off the Buffaloes, and I decided to zig. I was super high on Buffalo. Josh Allen was my preseason MVP pick, and they've been pretty much proving me right so far. And I do think they are able to beat Kansas City in Kansas City. They beat Kansas City earlier in the year. Kansas City's only loss this game was in Buffalo. And I do think Kansas City is as vulnerable as ever. And they can finally lose to Buffalo in the playoffs. And Josh Allen finally beats Mahomes. And I think that sets up a Buffalo Bills Detroit Lions Super Bowl. Yeah, I think Detroit will beat LA like they did last year. Their offense is just way too effective right now. They have so many playmakers on the defensive side of the field, even with Aiden Hutchinson hurt. Either it's Jack Campbell or it's Brian Branch. And it looks like Terrion Arnold is going to play as well. And obviously Kirby Joseph and the bad blood between him and the LA Rams. This would just be an electric conference championship game. And I'm going to go with Detroit to advance to the Super Bowl. Oh my God. So yeah, we got Detroit, Buffalo. I'm going to stand by what I had in my preseason take. These two teams had an absolute barn burner, an absolute electric matchup, pretty much middle of December, 48-42. The Bills ended up beating the Detroit Lions, what was their 2nd loss of the year, and I think they beat them again. And I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win the 2025 Super Bowl, and they get it done. They win the 2024 season, and yeah, they get their first Super Bowl in franchise history. And yeah, those are going to be my predictions for this year's playoff run. I think there could be so many electric storylines that could happen. Like, say Buffalo loses to Denver, Sean McDermott probably gets fired, right? Does Philadelphia lose to Green Bay? Does Nick Sirianni get fired? I think, like I mentioned, like that Eagles-Packers matchup, I think whoever wins that game, like if Philly wins, they end up going up against Tampa Bay. I think they beat Tampa Bay, and then we get this electric Detroit LA matchup in round 2. And then who knows? I think Philly could match up a little bit better against Detroit than LA does. And I think Detroit would be very happy if Green Bay were able to beat them. But that's what I'm going to stand by with. I think this is going to be the Super Bowl, Buffalo versus Detroit. It's a little bit different. Is this going to be the year the Chiefs finally don't make it? You can let me know down below. And I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know your conference championship and your Super Bowl predictions in the comments. I want to see if they're different or if they are the same. Subscribe if you guys are not already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.